It was the April of 2017. I was on a fabric sourcing trip in the suburban villages of Jaipur. Artisanal fabric in India is made in homes. The loops for weaving are in the living room. The dyeing happens in the courtyard. It's really a family affair. The wife prepares and spins the yarn. The man weaves the fabric. She prepares the colors and then he prints over it. And their children watch. What I'm really trying to say is that it's a family skill which is passed down from generation after generation. So my guide and I were actually going from one home to another, sourcing thousands of meters of fabric. I saw a dilapidated home with the same equipment in the veranda. So I asked him. He said, this particular family makes a fabric which is a specialized form of batik made out of mud and wax. And these were the last four artisans left in the world. Now, this story is not a story in isolation. Indian artisans have been reducing in numbers for the past few decades. Cheaper alternatives, machine-made alternatives, and changing customer preferences are making it the way it is. The fact is not up for debate that our crafts are undergoing extinction. At the same time, handicrafts is actually the largest income generating industry in India, only after agriculture. So this extinction is actually putting their livelihood at threat. In the pre-pandemic world, most organizations who were working towards protecting an ancient craft and creating livelihood opportunities were actually doing so by making products and selling products, mostly offline, some online. There were about 500 of us. Each one of us was working with about 2,000 artisans each. Yet, we knew each other. We used to meet at industry conferences. Maybe we were together on WhatsApp groups, but nobody worked together. Everyone was working on their own mission, their own artisans, their own sales channels, and their own products. There was a serious lack of collaboration. In fact, there was an actual mistrust of competitors. There was hardly an incentive to call each other up and say, let's collaborate. In March 2020, the lockdown in India began. The already declining industry came to a complete standstill. The supply chain was completely stopped. Physical retailers in India cancelled all orders up until November. Weighed down by the weight of this piled up inventory, many artisans were pressured into suicide. Several had to shut down their organizations. We knew of artisan groups who had 400 bed covers but no food. The industry was hanging by a thread. At the same time, I started to observe several large WhatsApp groups came into being, all of founders of these organizations. There was one point to note that most of them were women. And that makes me come to a point that it felt like there was a sisterhood being formed. All of these women leaders were now feeling that they were going to collaborate for a larger cause than just the organizations that they were running. We no longer were rivals. We had a common problem, a common enemy. In these initial meetings, I realized that there was no angst, no competition, no feeling of jealousy, but really a sense of coming together. We were now finally collaborating. In those meetings, information was being shared freely amongst women. Learnings of online sales, customer acquisition, artisan databases were being exchanged. We had teams of marketeers decide which artisan groups should be on which online platforms. Jaipur, Itokri, Goku, Swende, or Okhai. I had never seen collaboration this smooth between competition. Within the first 10 days, we were able to mobilize the first group of offline artisans online. We taught them how to take pictures, record their data in Excel sheets, upload their products online, and make their first sales, all over video calls. It was a crash course in online sales. Within weeks, we had made a scale which was sizable enough for all of these companies to see hope in collaboration. By the time it was Diwali, we realized that we had sold so much stock that we were now giving our physical counterparts a run, especially because they couldn't open their stores. Our voices were now amplified and they were much stronger, much louder. By March this year, we had together, all of these organizations helped 50,000 artisans sell their products online. Revenues of over 100 crores together. Most of these organizations grew by over 50%. While we had generated a huge amount of sales, I think it is really important to note the goodwill that we had earned with our customers. They realized that we had done this selfless act of sharing each other's platforms to help the artisans of India, and they amplified our voices even more. Each of our social media accounts grew by 100%. Many of these organizations pivoted from being a product company to a marketplace. I had not seen such beautiful collaboration in many years of corporate India. Businesses so large, 500 brands together, 50,000 artisans were collaborating. Why? Is it that when the chips are down, when we are left with no other option but to trust people, do we make bold moves? Do we collaborate? Do we make riskier moves? And that ends up teaching us the power of collaboration. It reminds me of Yuval Harari's belief that the real secret human superpower is the power to be able to collaborate, that too in large numbers. He says that if we are able to tell stories that can make thousands of people come together and believe in the same truth, we can collaborate with the ones that we don't even know. And this year, I saw a real life example of this happening. But collaboration can be very intimidating. The idea of walking up to a competitor and saying, I want to collaborate with you, people feel that it may make them seem weak. It may seem that I'm not a good enough leader. It may seem my company is not strong enough. People feel that just by having one conversation with a competitor, they are going to lose their market knowledge, their customers, and their market share. Well, some people also avoid collaboration because it is extremely nerve-wracking to negotiate. It's actually easier to just buy a product from someone and sell it at a certain price than to figure out a partnership with them. But collaboration is extremely meaningful in business. Both parties can grow a lot faster and take on the market leader. Both of them can make lower investments and have a higher upside. You don't need to spread yourselves thin across the value chain because you can have healthier, meaningful relationships throughout the value chain. But cooperation has its limits. It's important to decide on a daily basis how much information gets traded. And honestly, the one who wins is the one who makes the greatest effort to learn. And finally, don't step on each other's toes. It's so important that both partners in a collaboration end up giving each other space to grow and become better than individuals. Now, point is that collaboration is unavoidable. The artisans of India and the industry survived this year because we collaborated together. So one can enter a collaboration in a crisis and come out much, much stronger. Now, what would have happened had we not collaborated this year? This industry would have not survived. The family of four making the last few meters of batik in Jaipur would have not survived. It is guaranteed that these artisans would have found other jobs to support their families. And the extinction of this industry would have been at the hands of the pandemic and their leaders. I cited earlier that most of these women leaders or leaders of these organizations happen to be women. So is there a correlation between women leaders and smooth collaboration in a crisis? Probably. Their sense of empathy and responsibility towards the artisans made them realize that they were actually working for a larger good and hence were willing to collaborate. Their mental resilience made them change their business models overnight. Their ability to adapt helped them adjust their behavior and their entire outlook towards collaboration. Now, I think it's also about their survival instincts and mental resilience, the ability to express their emotions and pour their vulnerability in a group helped them form bonds that led to this meaningful collaboration. People are often scared. They feel that collaboration and competition cannot go together. But the truth is that collaboration and competition actually work beautifully together. Competition makes you the best version of yourself in whatever skill you're good at. And collaboration puts all of those individual skills to the best use to make sure that you achieve a common goal. So finally, all I really want to say to you is don't wait for the next pandemic to collaborate. When you see the next competitor across a room, put all your jitters aside, walk up to them and say hello. Thank you.